Hello friends, what we are going to discuss today is essentially related to the most common and fundamental facet of our everyday life, communication. Today we are going to discuss PR, publicity, propaganda and public opinion. I am Naziya Alvi. Let us quickly look at what we shall attempt to cover today. PR, publicity and propaganda are two very vital tools of communication that mold or change public opinion. It influences the decision-making process of an individual, a group or an entity. PR publicity usually lacks the staunch element of persuasive techniques and seeks to maintain and enhance the positive image of an entity. Propaganda is relatively less objective and empirical in nature and essentially looks at influencing one's decision. A propagandist may conceal or misrepresent certain facts. On the other hand, PR would highlight positive aspects. Communication as a word sounds very familiar and as a general idea is very significant. We all know how to communicate with each other. That's why we have friends, family and a circle of other people we communicate on a daily basis. So before we delve on our prime topic, PR, publicity, propaganda and public opinion, let us converse on a few vital aspects of communication as a tool in order to help us take through the main issue. Communication in its most simple form could be understood as a process of transferring information from one entity to another. While the Macmillan Dictionary defines it as the process of giving information or of making emotions or ideas known to someone, Oxford Dictionary explains it as the imparting or exchanging of information by speaking, writing, or using some other medium. These definitions makes it clear that there are different ways of communicating, verbal and non-verbal, and also that there is a flow of information from one entity to another. Now there must be a purpose when we communicate. Only this can give meaning to the data we make it information. The below mentioned image shows a few of the purposes one would seek to achieve as he or she or an entity like a company or government communicates. Therefore, communication must serve our purposes like defining something or helping us plan for an objective or controlling or verifying or initializing an activity. Moreover, a communication triggered by us will witness various stages before it achieves the intended purpose. As the image clearly depicts, the first stage would be unidirectional when information is transferred and it becomes knowledge for the target audience. At the second stage, there is a two-way exchange of ideas to develop an understanding by effectively listening to the target audience and satisfying their queries. The third stage would be slotting in actions like involvement and engagement so that the two parties develop a communication relation. And the final stage would view the result whereby there is a change in action or behavioral pattern. This process makes it amply clear that the ultimate stage of a communication would be a result where a change in action or opinion is brought about and the goal is achieved. Now, when we thoroughly know the ways, the process and the objectives of communication, we are completely prepared to set out with a deliberation on PR publicity, propaganda and public opinion, which would inevitably incorporate what we discussed just now. Let us first define the terms to gather an opening idea of the topic. PR stands for Public Relations. Institute of Public Relations based in the United States defines PR as the deliberate, planned and sustained effort to establish and maintain mutual understanding between an organization and its publics. Herbert M. Mouse, the political campaign manager who engineered President Richard M. Nixon's victory in California in 1960 and remained a major supporter and campaigner for Nixon in the US Senate, vice presidential and presidential races, PR as a combination of philosophy, sociology, economics, language, psychology, journalism, communication and other knowledge into a system of human understanding. PR aims at transmitting a message to its target audience. It seeks to establish a connect with a certain group of people or organization in order to achieve an objective. It can have a wide circle of entities that it aims to reach to. A few of these are mentioned in the image. Publicity in stricter sense means a conscious and a calculated attempt to manage the public's perception of a subject. Subject in the context of the definition could include people, for example a politician or an artist, as well as particular goods and services, organizations of all kinds, and works of art or entertainment. Liberally intended, publicity would tend to draw attention of people or entities towards a particular subject.
देख, मैं और तेरी भाभी आशा दीदी से मिल रहे हैं ताकि प्रसव के तुरंत बाद गर्भ निरोधक उपाय अपनाकर बच्चों में अंतर रख पाएं। इससे माँ और बच्चा दोनों स्वस्थ रहेंगे।
अच्छा, तैयारी हमेशा पहले।
हाँ।
बिल्कुल सही। प्रसव के तुरंत बाद भी गर्भ ठहर सकता है, इसलिए कॉपर टी, गर्भ निरोधक गोली या कॉन्डम अपनाकर बच्चों में 3 साल का अंतर रखें। मैं कुछ खिलौने खरीद लेती हूँ।
अभी से क्यों?
अरे आप ही तो कहते हैं ना, तैयारी हमेशा पहले।
पति पत्नी करें विचार, स्वस्थ नारी स्वस्थ परिवार।
It usually seeks to create a positive opinion and to gain public awareness for a product, person, service, cause or organization.
आओ जरा तुम भी तो डोर संभालो।
भाभी, भैया की डोर भी तो आप ही के हाथ में है।
मारूंगी। ए, चिढ़ा मत। पूरे घर को जो संभालती है।
इतना मुश्किल कहाँ है? दोनों की सोच एक सी हो तो छोटी छोटी चीजें भी मदद कर देती हैं। जैसे एक छोटी सी गोली रोज। आज के जमाने की गर्भ निरोधक गोली पुरानी गोली से बिल्कुल अलग है, एकदम सुरक्षित। तभी तो आपको कोई टेंशन नहीं और होने वाले बच्चे पर भी कोई बुरा असर नहीं।
अपने डॉक्टर या केमिस्ट की सलाह से आज के जमाने की कोई भी गर्भ निरोधक गोली अपनाइए। ये जानकारी राष्ट्रीय ग्रामीण स्वास्थ्य मिशन द्वारा जनहित में जारी।
Now when we have defined PR and publicity separately, the next step would be to realize if they are related or entirely different. PR and publicity are not synonymous but can be said to be two aspects of communication. Their boundaries overlap because of the goals they seek to achieve, but they differ in the technique of their approach. Public relations usually deals with individual publicity with the people in a mass, while dissemination of information to the people in the mass is distinct from individual publicity. Many public relations campaigns include provisions for publicity, and publicity can be seen as a result of effective public relations planning.
हेलो हेलो मम्मा, जल्दी आ जाओ।
पापा पापा,
उसको स्कूल से निकाल दिया, वो मेरा बेस्ट फ्रेंड है।
प्रिंसिपल साहब, अगर वो HIV पॉजिटिव है तो क्या हुआ? उसे स्कूल से निकालने की क्या जरूरत थी?
सिर्फ साथ में खाना खाने से या पढ़ने से HIV नहीं फैलता।
हमें भी अपनी सोच बदलनी पड़ेगी।
HIV एड्स अपनेपन को नहीं मार सकता। HIV पॉजिटिव लोगों के साथ हो रहे भेदभाव के खिलाफ अपनी चुप्पी तोड़िए।
Therefore, we can say that PR generates publicity, but that is not all to the purpose of PR. It has a broader perspective and it involves many tactics for the purpose of managing image and reputation. While press releases and notes constituted the primitive tool of PR, with advancement in technology and shrinking of the world with increased use of computers, various innovative modes of public relation have emerged. Professionals are now using technology as their main tool to get their messages to target audiences, and it goes beyond publicity. With the creation of social networks, blogs, and even internet radio, PR professionals are able to send direct messages through these mediums that attract the target audiences. Methods used to find out what is appealing to target audiences include the use of surveys, conducting research, or even focus groups. Tactics are the ways to attract target audiences by using the information gathered about that audience and directing a message to them using tools such as social mediums or other technology.
अंकल, आप ठीक तो हो ना?
बेटा
थैंक यू। ये क्या है?
कुछ नहीं अंकल, अभी ब्लड डोनेट करके आई हूँ।
बेटा तुम्हें तो बहुत कमजोरी महसूस होती होगी।
कोई कमजोरी नहीं अंकल, हर 3 महीने में करती हूँ।
अच्छा।
नेकी के लिए पहलवान नहीं, इंसान होना जरूरी है। रक्तदान कीजिए, कमजोरी नहीं होती, शरीर उस खून को जल्दी बना लेता है।
सोचिए मत, करके देखिए, अच्छा लगता है।
Let us now examine what is propaganda and how is it connected or different from PR. According to Clyde R. Miller, propaganda is the attempt to influence others to some predetermined end by appealing to their thought and feeling. According to Anderson and Parker, propaganda is the deliberate use of communication to induce people to favor one predetermined line of thought or action over another. Kimball Young defines propaganda as the more or less deliberate, planned and systematic use of a symbol, chiefly through suggestion and related psychological techniques, with a view first to altering and controlling opinions, ideas and values, and ultimately to changing overaction along predetermined lines. In simplest terms, propaganda is the use of reasoning or facts in order to persuade another person to favor a particular kind of action that he would otherwise not favor or has not been in favor of. Propaganda has to be continuous and needs to have impact not only on the people who do not support the propagated idea, but also has to consolidate those who already support the idea but have doubts and eliminate these doubts. However, let us not gather the notion that propaganda is necessarily the propagation of wrong views by questionable methods. Although it uses strong persuasive tools to change one's opinion in the favor of a particular subject, group, and organizations whose objectives have been socially constructive, have often resorted to the method of propaganda. The Family Planning Department, in order to control the birth rate, has used all the devices of propaganda.
कह रही थी तुम्हारी मुस्कान बड़ी खिललिया है।
खिललिया?
अरे खिललिया नहीं जानती? हम समझाते हैं, बैठो ना आराम से। खिललिया मतलब शहद जैसी मीठी है तुम्हारी हंसी। हाँ, अरे अम्मा तो और भी तारीफ कर रही। दोस्त, आज सिर्फ बातें।
जो ख्याल रखते हैं वो जानते हैं, यही है सही। कॉन्डम हमेशा।
A common feature about most of the propaganda strategies are that they seldom show the situation from different points of view and refrain from giving the full picture in details. A propagandist is generally expected to be aimed at changing people's opinion, belief and understanding the situation in order to influence their future actions and decisions so that these actions would coincide with the interests of the propagated group or person. And hence, propaganda and influential communication strategy is always the most effective when it rests upon verifiable information.
स्वस्थ परिवार ही है प्रगति का आधार। इसलिए देश भर में राज्यों के सौजन्य से स्वास्थ्य सेवाएं उपलब्ध कराते हैं हम। राष्ट्रीय ग्रामीण स्वास्थ्य मिशन। स्वस्थ भारत की शुरुआत होती है स्वस्थ परिवार से, आपसे।
It can readily justify itself in terms of the real interests of the target groups and can show a genuine commonality or interest among the individual who compose the group. Propaganda is merely a means of influencing others, often towards a desirable end. It aims at persuasion by means of symbols. There are certain common features of propaganda. As the main idea of propaganda is to actively influence people's opinion and social mood, it uses various means of spreading ideas. The first feature of propaganda is therefore the tendency to utilize as many means of spreading information as possible. Telecommunications, radio, banners, internet memes, different billboards, leaflets and advertisements, and even road signs containing special information can be used as the sources of influencing public opinion. Secondly, propaganda is meant to influence people's emotions first of all, for the message that involve emotional side will be remembered first. Usually, the propagated messages are meant to underline, romanticize some idea or phenomenon, or vice versa, are directed to show some idea or person from the negative side. In any case, strong emotional involvedness of the audience is used in propagating to replace missing facts with the people's attitude to the propagated phenomenon. So what are the uses of propaganda? Even without knowing this, we all have to deal with propaganda in our ordinary life. It happens through advertising, propaganda occurs in political speeches, in TV shows, even in the news. With the development of means of communication and especially of mass media, propaganda has become inseparable from the contemporary mass culture. In modern times, it has come to play an important role. The modern world is very much dependent on its owing to its pace of influencing opinion. The government, business houses, political parties and various other sections of society use it to serve their own distinctive purposes. While the techniques of propaganda can be successfully implemented to trigger damaging emotions like the one policy, divide and rule, helped the British government to rule on India as an imperial colony for 2 centuries, propaganda can equally be used for positive purposes like for spreading healthy lifestyle, anti-smoking campaigns, anti-discrimination ideas, etc. In the 2 world wars, the battle on the propaganda front was as intense as on the military front. The German government led by Hitler extensively relied on propaganda to spread the notion that the war was necessary and that Germans were superior to Americans or Britishers. On the other hand, the American government used a wide variety of media and the propaganda to foment hatred against the enemy as well as support for allies. In that process, he ensured that more material could go to the war effort and sold war bonds. Propaganda helped in crushing the morale of the army and civil population in the enemy state and in building up the morale of the army and civil population in his own state. The picture showing Hitler as a knight holding the national flag is one of the many posters used by the German during the World War to promote his personality. Similarly, on a positive note, propaganda can also be useful to bring about a change in the policy of the government. In India, the propaganda against dowry, prenatal sex determination and gender discrimination helped the government of India to enact laws prohibiting the impungent acts. The propaganda against compulsory sterilization forced the government to change not only its policy regarding family planning program but also the name of the ministry from the Ministry of Family Planning to Ministry for Family Welfare. Propaganda pictures were used by the Family Welfare Department to discourage people from differentiating between a male child and a girl child. The government employing propaganda as a powerful instrument to bring about social change also uses propaganda to win people's cooperation for implementing its policies and programs. Thus, the family planning program was widely publicized and vast propaganda machinery was mobilized to influence the people in its favor. It is difficult to change the habits and attitudes of the people. The propagandists, through psychological aids, goes directly to the springs of motivation. Propaganda is an important medium for transmitting those pressures which help in breaking the bonds of the traditional social order. The government used images to propagate the idea of having a small family. This image used to be displayed in cinema halls before start of a movie, was splashed on TV and was pasted as posters at several points, letting people know the benefits of a small family. At this juncture, we can easily differentiate between PR publicity and propaganda. While propaganda is a deliberate and guided campaign to induce people for the acceptance of a given idea using persuasive techniques, publicity looks at disseminating information, maintaining public image of a subject and is constantly promoted. Now we have discussed PR publicity and propaganda as tools of communication with different features and objectives. However, if we look closely, both aim at influencing public opinion. According to Bertrand R. Canadian, Public opinion is an expression of a belief held in common by members of a group or public on a controversial issue. The public opinion emanates from an individual's opinion of members of a group whose views are subjected to the influences exerted by the group until a consensus is reached and is expressed as the public opinion. Public opinion can also be comprehended as the aggregate of individual attitudes or beliefs held by the adult population. The basic objective of PR publicity and propaganda is to influence public opinion, which develops from the attitudes of individuals comprising the public. Therefore, it is important to understand the meaning of attitudes, why people hold attitudes, and their role in the opinion for mind process. Attitude may be defined as a way of looking at situations. An attitude expressed verbally by behavior is an opinion. Attitude which expresses a feeling for or dislikes are a product of numerous physical and mental influence. Body process affects attitudes. Good health contributes to favorable attitudes, while illness develops negative attitudes. Cultural and religious backgrounds often determine a person's attitude. Attitudes are dominant until aroused by motive, which are incited by a need, emotion, idea, or physical state. The motives which arouse attitudes in individuals originate into desires for rewards, as in the case of a worker who has a favorable attitude towards his union because it seeks to secure for him increased compensation and benefits. A businessman would seek the favorable attitude of employees by rewarding them bonuses and providing benefits for improved performances. On the other hand, an unfavorable attitude is aroused in employees who want higher wages, recognition, or good working conditions. Individuals express their beliefs, philosophy, and value their attitudes. A good Indian has a positive attitude towards freedom and democracy, which reveals his benefits and expresses his character. There can be three types of attitudes: positive, passive, and negative. Positive attitudes. A positive attitude induces a person to react favorably towards another person, an issue, a policy, or an organization. Many industrial workers have a positive attitude favorable for labor, unions, and inciting participation in union activities. Passive attitudes. An individual's attitude towards an issue, person, or organization may be completely passive. As a result, he will have no opinion on issues or on the group. A worker who has a passive attitude towards labor union will have no opinions on controversial questions involving union policy or activities. And negative attitudes. Similarly, attitude can also be negative, giving an individual an unfavorable opinion of a person, issue, or organization. A negative attitude is usually accompanied by a feeling of unpleasantness or dissatisfaction. A worker may have a negative attitude towards labor unions. The negative attitude may create prejudice, which causes the worker to prejudge the aim and activities of labor unions without understanding their contribution to the welfare of workers. The attitude is very important because it eventually becomes opinion. Opinion is the public expression of active attitudes. The opinions of a person are activated by his attitudes, which are motivated by mental and physical forces that propel him to express his opinion. When these individual attitudes resulting into individual opinion are formed into a set of opinions, they form public opinion on a particular subject. The basic objective of PR publicity is to influence public opinion, which develops from the attitudes of individuals comprising the public. However, it cannot be overlooked that public opinion matters a lot in public relations, and a publicity strategy is formulated on the basis of the existing opinion about the subject. However, usually public opinion is only a consideration in propaganda, and the strategy aims at creating the one in its favor. Propaganda, simply put, is the manipulation of public opinion. It is generally carried out through media that is capable of reaching a large amount of people and effectively persuading them for or against a cause. PR may deal with developing and recommending corporate public relation policies, announcement of new products through editorial channels of communication, media, developments and execution of promotional product publicity campaigns, maintaining licensing with appropriate government units at local, state and national levels, reporting trends in government affecting the company, communication between company and shareholders and also between investors in general. Propaganda will remain an attempt to change opinions by persuasively presenting new ones. The propagandist attempts to alter the opinions of his subjects or viewers by convincing them of the validity of their own. In order to accomplish this, he or she uses a variety of methods and techniques. The purpose of propaganda is to change opinions, but more importantly, to influence your decisions. Unlike PR publicity, it is usually less objective. Let's now do a quick recap. So friends, following the extensive discussion we had in the preceding part of our program, let us revise the main points. PR, publicity and propaganda are two very vital tools of communication that mold or change public opinion to influence the decision-making process of an individual, a group or an entity. PR publicity usually lacks the staunch element of persuasive techniques and seeks to maintain and enhance the positive image of an entity. Propaganda is relatively less objective and empirical in nature and essentially looks at influencing one's decision. A propagandist may conceal or misrepresent certain facts. PR, on the other hand, would highlight positive aspects. Conclusion. I believe that this discussion must have helped you understand the difference between PR publicity and propaganda as effective tools of communication vis-à-vis public opinion. You should be now able to differentiate between them and also relate to them in a peculiar situation and in specific context. Also, I hope this attempt of familiarizing you with the world of communication strategies would assist you in future. Wish you all the best and see you again soon. Goodbye.